Hello there, GED students. This is Mr. Von Ah with some more math to get you one step closer to your future. So tonight we are going to be continuing in Unit 4, Geometry. Last time on our last video we learned how to find the perimeter. You know what? We never did find the perimeter of a triangle, rectangle, but we'll cover that in this video. Today we're mostly going to be covering the area of triangles, rectangles, and parallelograms. All right? So let's go ahead and start with the rectangles, and then we'll get to triangles. All right, so here I have a rectangle. It's a very special rectangle. It's a square. It means it's got all four sides are equal. Okay, and we know that the length and the width are both 6. All right, so there's two ways we could find the area of this square. We could count each one of these squares. And that would take quite a long time, especially if there was a lot of them, right? So there are actually 35 squares there. So I know that the area is 35 square units. Why do we call them square units? Well, because each one of these units is a square. All right, so that's the long way. We don't want to do it that way, right? There's a quicker way. And many of you know this formula, but it is such an important formula. I really encourage you to memorize this formula. I could find the area of any rectangle. Well, that's not 35. There's 36 units there. Let's count them again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, there's 6 sets of 6, isn't there? 6 sets of 6. Well, wouldn't that be just the same as saying 6 times 6? It is, right? So I could find the area of any rectangle by just simply multiplying the length times the width. And I know that 6 times 6 is 36. And that's so much easier and faster. Okay? The same is true right over here. Let's say I have this. Well, 7 by 3. I could count all those up, or I could just simply go length times width. 7 times 3 is 21. Now, let's just say, again, on the GED, they're not going to probably just give you the length and the width. What they're probably going to try to pull on you is they're going to give you, they'll say, hey, the area is 35 inches squared. Okay? And the length is 7. What is the width? Well, you might already know it, but this is where the formula really helps us, right? Well, if the area of a rectangle is length times width, sometimes we say base times height, it's just one dimension times the other dimension. If area equals length times width, if I know the area, 35, I can just substitute that in for my A, equals L. I know my L is 7. And my width, well, I don't know my width. So instead of putting a dot there, I just put the number right next to the letter. Anytime you see a number right next to a letter, it means multiplication. 7 times W. All right, so now I just got to solve for W. And I do that just simply by understanding my inverses. What is the inverse of multiplication? Division. You're right. All right, so I'm going to divide by 7. The golden rule, do unto one side as you do unto the other side. All right, so 7 divided by 7 is 1. So I'm going to get 1W, or just W. And 35 divided by 7, you guessed it, it's 5 inches. 5 inches. Right? So you can solve these problems involving area if you're given area, or if you're given the length and the width, as long as you have 2 out of the 3 variables, you can find the third, okay? So how about the area of a parallelogram? How do I find the area of a parallelogram? Well, let's see. Let's say that this length is 8. And this height is, let's say it's 4. All right? Now, I want you to visualize. You see this triangle right here? This makes a right triangle. What if I were to take this right triangle, flip it over, and put it right here? Let's try that. So I'm going to take this right triangle and flip it over, and I'm going to put it right there. So that's going to be gone now, right? Because I moved it. What does that now look like? It's just a rectangle, isn't it? It's just an 8 by 4 rectangle. So what will be the area of this? Well, you guessed it. Area is length times, now this normally you won't understand as a width. Normally it'll be given as a height. What's the height of the parallelogram? So I don't know, you can put an H there, you can put a W there, it doesn't really matter, right? So going back to our original drawing here, I had this right here, right? Something like this. So to find the area of a parallelogram, all you have to do is know the length and the width, or the height, however you want to call it. And it's a length is 8 and the height is 4. So 8 times 4 is 32. And if that was in inches, it would be in inches squared. All right? So really no difference from a rectangle. All right? Because really all it is a slanted rectangle. Okay, now what about triangles? We haven't talked about triangles yet. All right, well, let's take this rectangle right here. Actually, no, let's take this rectangle here. I'm going to make this into a triangle. Ready? Here we go. Now I have 2 triangles, don't I? I have a top triangle and a bottom triangle. All right? So really a triangle then is just half of a rectangle. In fact, let's take a look at that. We know that the area of this was 36 units, correct? What's going to be the area of this triangle that I'm going to go ahead and shade in with blue? What's the area of that triangle? Well, let's count up the squares. All right? I'm going to put a little dot on each square. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but we have half triangles here, right? See this right here? That's just going to be a half of this square. So if I add this triangle and this triangle, that will be the equivalent of 1 rectangle. So how would I show that? So how many of these triangles do I have? Well, this would be two triangles make 1 rectangle. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. I don't know if you can really see that. All right? But I have how many triangles here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I have 3 rectangles, really. So if I was to add 3 to the, what did we have? 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, plus the 3 from these rectangles, that's 18. Correct? So I have the area here is 18 units squared. Now, question. What is half of 36? Well, let's find out. I can find half of 36 by simply dividing it by 2. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down my 6. 2 goes into 16. 18 times, and lo and behold, look at that. A triangle is simply half of a rectangle. So what do you think the formula for a rectangle is? Why don't you pause the video and see if you can come up with the formula. You got it? Well, you guessed it. If the area of a rectangle is length times width, the area of a triangle is 1/2, and usually you'll see it written like this: base times height. You could say length times width, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just telling you, usually with triangles we use base and height. Okay, another way of writing this, sometimes you'll see it written like this: area equals base times height over 2. It's the same thing, right? Anytime you divide by 2, you're taking half of a number. All right? So there's our area of a triangle. Okay, now let's go back. How do you find the perimeter of a triangle? Well, in order to find the perimeter of a triangle, at least at this stage, because we haven't learned Pythagorean theorem, we need to know all 3 sides. Okay, so let's say we're given a triangle, any triangle. And let's say the base here is 3, the height is 5, and the hypotenuse here is, let's make this right, 3, 4, 5. What's the perimeter? Well, remember, perimeter just means the distance around. And when we work with rectangles and perimeter and parallelograms, we could make a nice fancy formula, right? Because some of the sides were equal to the other sides. But for a triangle, the 2 legs of the triangle could be the same, but oftentimes they're not. In this case, all 3 sides of the triangle are different lengths. So we can't make a fancy formula for this. So we simply just add them up. So the perimeter just equals the sum, that's just a Greek capital S, sigma. Perimeter equals the sum of all sides. Okay, so you get perimeter equals 3 plus 4 plus 5. And what do you get? 3 and 4 is 7, 7 and 5 is 12. So let's just say those are in inches. So it'd be 12 inches. By the way, not inches squared. Right? These are measurements of length. Just 12 inches. That's how long this triangle is all the way around. All right? So I hope that's helpful to you. We have learned how to calculate perimeter and area of triangles, rectangles, and parallelograms. Make sure you practice. Go on Khan Academy. Put this into practice. That's how you will master it. All right? Make sure you subscribe to my channel. And until then, till I see you next time, May God richly